Okay, I think we're underway now. And welcome back, everybody. I'm going to be going over a handful of things tonight. Some stuff we worked on last time, showing off some new enemy, showing off some more skills that we added, some new status effects, and then I plan on working on healing, and a very particular way we want to do healing in the game, and it requires me to make a new set of items. I'm going to show off what we got. Okay, so, yeah, same character. You'll notice that the I can't even see the UI in the lower section here. Let me disable this camera real quick. Okay, see lower right, we now have our new icons for the attacks and skills. Top one's duplicated. We're going to be messing with that one. I also did a couple updates. You can see I actually updated this special skill. And just to show you, I actually made this all of these helper little button indicators for the tooltips of what everything activates on. It's actually dynamic enough to work if you change it in the options menu here. So I have a new binding system. Actually, let me set this up to the old way of doing things. This attack was that. Attack was that. Special was Y. Dodge is bottom. Interact was left. And then there's no binding on the epic, which I'm going to switch to there. Alright, so let me go back. Hopefully this will work. Let's take a look again at the level, and so look, the skills down at the bottom all line up with the correct buttons now. And if I had I can interact over here, so this little interactor will pop up and tell you what button you need to push to interact with these things. So that's cool. Even that upper left, I've got the level up indicator, which I don't think is displayed currently. Is a left D-pad. So I've been messing around the last couple of days trying to figure out how to get more variety out of my skills for my characters and get more buttons on the screen, get more buttons in different abilities the player can use. Essentially, what I needed to do is thinking about how I wanted to handle healing in the game. But I'll get into that in a second once I show off some of the new stuff. So the first thing I'm going to show off is this Frost Beam spell, which is just an utility spell that you have that you can equip, you can find. And I don't think I have a drop for it, but actually I can show you what the drop for it looked like here. And it's essentially the same way that you activate these other utility skills. They're single button. They usually have a hold to kind of prime them, and then a release activates them. This works a little differently. This one has a startup time, and then it begins to do its damage over time. So there's this point where the beam itself will begin to charge up, and then when it's ready, the end particles for the beam kind of hit, and it starts doing its damage pretty rapidly. So behind the scenes, it's actually firing out ray casts for server events at every 150 milliseconds. So it's actually wasn't too hard to take a lot of my bow and arrow logic I was using and repurpose it for this thing that just kind of fires at a rapid rate. Now the visuals are all decoupled from it because you can't really draw this beam, assume this beam is going to always update when the ray cast hits a spot. So I created a new system for making visual effects for different skills when they're activated, and this essentially is just spawning this visual stencil beam over the character's hand node, and that hand nodes and the visual stuff also replicates across the server, so I kind of don't have to worry about other people seeing the exact same thing, but they are going to see the beam roughly in the same location, in the same way that when you turn your character, you'll see the character update on the remote clients. And let me see, one other thing with this is I started using Godot's new tween scene tweens, and I still haven't quite got the hang of them, but they seem all right. I mean, I've been using the regular tweens for a while now. It seems like I have to do a little bit more to manage them being destroyed properly, but hopefully that will work out for the rest of them. I can start moving the other tweens off of nodes because I've got plenty of nodes in the game and probably don't need very many. I have to do a lot of pre-caching for all my projectiles because they need a pool to pull from. So when you see them across the server, you know which projectile to grab and make sure no two clients are grabbing the same projectile. So there are quite a few just sitting in the background. And same thing with all these objects that we've got on the map too. So the next thing I want to show off, I guess, would be these new bats. I made a new creature. I showed a little video of it earlier. Again, this thing is supposed to be a fairly easy mob, and they're only supposed to be somewhat dangerous if you have a bunch of them on you. So he's just got a real light set of skills. Basically, it's just this 2 skills. He's got this attack, which is a bite, and he's got this fallback skill. So if you get too close, he will just occasionally move back to make it a little more interesting to fight against. And he moves pretty quick, so he does, and he has a circling behavior on the player, which is kind of cool. Let's see. And the other thing that's really interesting that I had to build on these bats was the new behavior they do when they interact with the ground and things that the player can collide into. Now, because he's a bat, I wanted to make sure that he can fly. So he actually ignores certain kinds of collision, and he sorts over these things as well. So you'll always see him be able to go over stuff. So ideally, we'll have this kind of monster who can kind of sort over certain kind of obstacles, and like I'm going to have canals and bridges and things like that where the player won't be able to access, but flying creatures will be able to. And then eventually we're going to have ghosts, which will be ignoring everything and then go right through walls. So just built the structure for something like that. And you can see that we got a bunch of barrels. I also changed the behavior of this ability as well. Originally it was doing, it was just making attacks and sweeping in that really rapid sweep pattern you see. The trouble is that the way that it was working, the hit box that I use, or the damage box that I use for weapons, does a thing called an animation stop or an animation delay. It's the same thing that you've seen in a lot of games where you'll hit a guy for the little extra impact. There's a slight pause on his animation, and kind of freezes there for just a second for the attacking character, and that gives you a little more impact. And so when I was doing that with the complete circle, it would stop constantly. You'd see it just stagger and look kind of weird because you hit multiple targets with it, and it would stagger it significantly. As you can see, this, like if I attack all 3 of these barrels, it's going to do that hit stop with all 3 of them. Now it's hard to tell. You can barely see it. You probably will just see it over the stream, but it is a slower animation because it does stop for, I think, 50 milliseconds per hit. And I've been messing with that too, so some you'll see other skills that will have even more damage or more stop time. Let me see. We'll go into here and got another monster room I built for just some of these guys. They spawn in. Now, that bite effect that you see right there is actually nothing more than a rectangle with an animated sprite for the bite event. And they actually have the hit stop too, so if you see them bite, the bite will actually stop the animation or slow down their animation when if they connect to bite versus not. So, and all that animation for the sprite frames is all handled through the same animation system that handles swinging a weapon. And so this is actually really close to how the spearman attack works, where they stop, they aim their weapon towards a target, and then they run their warning flash, and then get a slight move, gameplay effect, and then play the attack animation. Let's go ahead and I'll start showing you what I really want to get into tonight, which is handling healing. And because the game is sort of roguelike, but it's also cooperative, I wanted to be very careful with how I do healing items and healing in the game. Originally, I was just going to have, you know, potions or something you pick up in the map that will heal you up, but I think what I really want to try out is something closer to a med kit, where your character has a limited number of resources. He can find them in the map, pick them up, and then use them on himself or an ally. Very similar to how Left 4 Dead medkits work. I'm going to go ahead and show you what I've got going on here. And what that means is that I need 2 ways to interact with the same item, which is to say they need to be not like the standard utilities or the other skills that I have on my character. They need to work much more like a weapon, because a weapon has 2 actions, or 2 action buttons mapped to it, and that's like one for its normal attack and one for its special. So in this case, I want this item called, I'm calling it a bandage for now, is the first one I'm going to be building. It's going to have a heal self, which will have some sort of countdown timer when you're holding the button down, and then if you don't take damage or you don't get interrupted, after that time you will heal. And then I want the second button to be a directed skill that can heal other people. So in roughly the same way, where you hold it down for some period of time and then they'll come back. And now that means I've got to make a whole, got to free up 2 buttons, and I've got to make a whole nother type of I think I call them skill actions. What's the actual term I use? A strike source. And a strike source is, you can see over here, I've got weapon set, a dodge, and utility. And those are really the 3 strike sources I have items for in the game. Interact is sort of a strike source because it's one that doesn't require a weapon, I don't think. Let me tell you, see if I might have built the same behavior set for them because it was just so easy to hook into my input system using the same logic. Yeah, interact. So I have actually built it the same way. And interact is just another skill action set that does something after it's held and released. So ideally, the new thing I'm building is going to be a child of a thing called a healing action set, which we need to make a new kind of healing action, names. And if you look at the behavior for weapons, weapon action set, let's go ahead and find this guy. So weapon action set is just one of these, and everything is inherited from a thing called a skill action set, which handles all the inputs from these guys. Well, that coupled with my skill component, which is it gets a little more complicated when you go through the skill component. And you can see that all of my weapon sets are defined over here. You've got player weapons. I need to start moving these monster weapons in here. So we've got your battle axe. This defines, where did it open? It opened here. So battle axe has things that are defined in it, like the weapon model, resource, the animations for the various states. So we've got, it's when it's not doing any kind of special toggled on, it runs this idle state, which is in sharing them all. And these are a dictionary that my creature skeleton will read and determine what animations it loads in when these effects are active. And then the action set itself has a set of attacks. Each attack has a set of strikes. And so you can have an attack that has 3 strikes, similar to how the battle axe works. You swing once, it plays a specific animation with specific damage, and then if you do it in the combo time, it will go down these until it finishes the array, and then it will find new stuff. If you combo it with dashes, it has its own unique strike for that. The special version has a held strike. It has a release strike. It doesn't have a release failed strike, which probably is okay. No, it shares it. So if you were to get interrupted, it has a third strike to let you know what happens when it fails. And you'll see that something with like the longbow here. The longbow has a held strike, which is holding down the bow, and then the release. If you release the shot, it will fire an arrow. Make sure you open it up here, and I can show you what it looks like exactly. Let me show you a player. I've got my loadout. We'll take a look here. So on this normal attack, it has this aim, hold the button down. On release, it fires. But if you were to just hold it down and take damage, it won't fire the arrow. So I'll go ahead and spawn a bat. Actually, I got one back here. So I'll spawn a bat. You can see if I hold the arrow down, if I hold down the button, he's holding down the arrow, and you don't necessarily want him to always shoot when he fails the strike. And also does things like this. I've got if you click and release too quickly, the strike is not successful, so it fails as well. So he's not going to fire any arrows. It's pretty short, so you don't have to spend too much time before you're able to fire an arrow validly. But you can imagine other skills like I think my fire staff weapon has something similar. So that's going to be essentially how the healing kit works. Is you're going to have a hold event, and then when the timer's up, it's going to either force a release, or it's going to do something like perform an action and then remove the item from the inventory. Because it's a healing item, and it's not going to share any of the resources with the rest of my items. So right now, all of my I've got basically two resources to spend on attacks and skills and stuff, and also the utilities. Use all of them. I actually built this new one for the Ray of Frost skill, and that's something that drains your stamina. So if you start this skill, you'll notice that it goes down, and then as long as you hold the skill down, it keeps draining your stamina and doesn't let you regen stamina. And stamina is used mostly for dodges right now, but it's a huge tunable for other things. And then the other thing is this that equipment. I call it Armati in code, but it's essentially a generic form of gear or items that you pick up for ammunition for different skills. So like if you've got the alchemy bombs, when you use them, they'll spend Armati, and if you don't have enough Armati to use them, you will not be able to successfully release the strike. So you see me throw one, spend, and I can spend I can spend all this stuff, and then you'll see me unable to spend anymore. Let me just get through this quick. This is also an item that has pretty quick release time to have a valid strike. Okay, so 2, 1, and I've got one left. That's it. And if I were to release now, it does the failed strike version, which means you actually don't get to release and fire anything. I don't know why it's rotating me around. That's actually pretty interesting. It's doing something. It might be doing... Oh, I know what it's probably doing that. It's because this thing targets the ground and not the center, it probably moves it down every time I click the button. I'm gonna have to fix that. That's something that small though. All right, so let's get into the healing item. So we've got healing action set. I want to go ahead and make bandages. Healing. I've got an icon built for it and everything. So here's my healing set. We'll just call it. Let's grab all this data for longbow. Actually, that'll be fine. And we'll go ahead and create a new class. call it bandage. Wonder why it doesn't like that. Oh. Apparently there's already a bandage. Oh, looks like I started building one. I built it as a weapon originally, thinking I would just share weapons and swap them. But that is not the way to go, because I don't ever want to be in a situation where people spend most of their time just messing with their inventory, especially not in the middle of a match. And I would like to get some feedback if I can get some players to mess around with the controls once I get the last set of skills in, because I can't tell. I've been messing with changing the weapon buttons to different buttons and trying out which ones feel better, whether it's the right and left bumper or the face buttons. Okay, so we need, we've got potentially weapon models. We only need the one, I believe, on the right. And let me see if I've got the scene built for it. Because we've got a bandage icon here. Here is the weapon models. Okay, so we've got battle axes and alcohol. I'm just gonna duplicate this guy. So we'll call it bandage model. Okay, it's got a sprite. We need to swap that up for a bandage. I think I've got one here. Cool. And we'll leave the muzzle in because the muzzle's probably where we're going to spawn some particle effects. Okay, and we've got, I need to grab the generic, so this is the animation state for you're not doing anything with it. I'm just going to leave this one. I'm going to comment these guys out because, actually, I'm going to, left doesn't exist because we don't have a left hand. But for this one, we'll comment that guy out. And we got with a generic, I made a generic animation for just the right hand holding nothing. And just facing out. Idle face forward, that's a perfect name. Okay. And then we've got these skill actions. This is the set of action names, and then we've got these attacks. So the good news is this guy doesn't need a dash attack, and it's longbow is one of the earlier skills I built, so it probably doesn't have the same formatting that I really will need. Okay, so we've got a longbow attack 1. It's got a release strike. Where's its failed release strike? I deleted that. There's its failed strike. So we've got... Okay, so that's its held strike. I can get rid of these stat bonuses. They're not relevant. And then I got a failed strike. So I need to go to here. We're gonna make some bandage strikes. I think I named them like this, yeah. Hold, release, and release fail. That makes more sense. Again, these are all enums that will come really into play just from the server to send the message across of what specific element we're using. And it carries a lot of information with it. You'll see. Oh, I actually added it right here. So I must have been planning ahead a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna strike 2 for bandage is gonna be the other version, which is gonna be the one that heals others. And one thing I really don't like about Godot is if you go into that section, let me go ahead. How did that thing close? In here, if you reorder this and you've used these enums in the editor for, you know, tracking what I'm using right for now is the AI waiting for strikes to come out before it finishes it's a combo chain. And if you were to reorder these, it only cares about what the int number is. It doesn't actually, it'll display the enum, but it won't change the enum in the editor. It doesn't know, which is a little annoying. Okay, so we gotta go add here. I'm gonna add a skill action. Got bandage skill 1 and bandage skill 2. These actually aren't necessary right now, the skill action names. I just wanted to use them as an easier way to track stuff through debugging. So eventually, they'll be moved out. Okay, skill type. Okay, so we're gonna have to add new skill types because they all need unique types. So the first 2 are for weapons. Dash is for dodges and stuff, and the utility, and then there's another version where dash attack, which is the combos of those 2. So I actually need to add new skill types. We'll add heal self, heal others. I don't really like the name of those. That'll be fine for now, though. Hey. Shh. Okay. First one for yourself, second one for the others. Quit it, Bogart. Okay. Gotta add these over here because this one will not have a set of sequential strikes. It's going to have the hold strikes, like the one above. And essentially, there really is no hold complete skill because we're not going to trigger on release. We're going to trigger on completion of the skill. Okay, so I have this skill is actually mostly set up. I actually need to go into here and add them to the array. And that is This guy. This needs to be broken up eventually, but right now it contains the strike data of every strike from all weapons and all creatures and all characters in this giant list. And they can be pretty complicated, so they've got... and that's the problem I've been having with trying to move it to some sort of different editor for modifying them, because there's quite a bit of data in here that's just a lot easier to access or not have to compress, keeping them all in here. So for now, this is working fine until I get a little more solid on what things I absolutely need. They're going to stay in C#. Okay, since we used the longbow for the other stuff, we're going to use the longbow for this again. Copy these 3 strikes. And we'll just rename them to bandage. Okay, so next thing I will need to do, since this now can go in your inventory, you just can't do anything with it. Let me go ahead and actually show you. I'm going to go ahead and stop this thing. Oh wait, these have unique names for the weapons. That might be a problem. And utility. Yeah, that's a specific skill. I have to go all the way back to the action set and add a new set there. There's got to be a better way to handle that. So let's go, go to definition, go to this guy's definition. Yeah, so let's see, the way this works now is I've got all these skill actions in a big list, and I fill each one in if it's needed, but I don't know if, and then monsters themselves have a different set of skill actions for their use. And this is how, and then I have a bunch of helpers in here to populate the names out and get the strikes related to the different kinds of attacks. There's got to be a better way to handle this. I'm trying to think if we've got... So a skill action is just a defined set of strikes. And this is a set of skill actions. But then why do they need unique entries? What grabs them? Maybe we can just genericize it. Okay, the weapon component. It assigns it to here with a specific name. Maybe if I made the skill action actually have a unique skill action name. That's not useful at all. And then I could do a skill action type. Because then I could say, find a skill action of type down here. weapon component. And that's just straight up inherited, so I don't know. It does seem like it's going to get in the weeds. I may have to dig into that a little later. For now, I'll just do this. I'll use the same pattern, but I'll have to put that on my list of stuff to go fix. Okay, so we're going to call this one heal self and heal others. Yeah, this is going to get unwieldy, so I'll have to fix that. Just a bunch of empty data, though. Okay, so weapon component. We'll search through from all of this stuff, and everybody else just uses their own. They don't really care about these other sets, but because weapons use the monster attacks, it does some extra work there. And then it's got its own evaluation of actions, which I need to do as well. For my... I don't know why this is called a weapon component when it's not a component. That's annoying. Oh no, it is. A weapon component is a component. It's not a strike sword. Okay. So we're going to need to make another one of these. But first, let's add our stuff to this. Gonna have to duplicate some more stuff. We're gonna have to make sure we can get this. Gets the right strikes. Heal self. Heal others. And these are just helpers to go find the strikes off of the action set. It's always the case. You end up going through your old stuff that you think is pretty stable, and you realize you could have done it a lot better. That tends to slow me down too much. Okay, that part is done. We've got this healing. Actually, where's bandage at? Bandage is over here. It has real strikes. They do exist. And now I need to go make sure a character can actually pick one of these up. Let's see here. Let's actually look at the skill component. Skill component is a big entry to the player's inputs activating, or player's inputs being read, and this current skills state being read. So like if you're holding down a skill versus not, and then using all that information to determine what happens when the input is read, or when the input is released, or whatever it does. Okay, so I've got these three things right now that make up a character skill component. And so weapons, dashes, and utility. We're going to need to make another component type. And it's going to not be a weapon component, but it's going to share a lot of information with the weapon component. We'll call it the healing component. That sounds very close to like a healing thing or a healing. We'll do it. It's fine. Healing. Let's go find our weapon component. We're going to have to use some different logic here, but I like the overall thought. Okay, weapon components here. These are always filled into skill components, and I'll add a new class. Because really, we're making a healing slot, like a healing equipable. It's not like you're being healed by this thing. So that kind of sounds weird. And then healing action set in here, and then this skill action is heal self and heal others. And all this other stuff is not necessary. Wet monsters don't use it. I need to get the healing action set. Data. On equipped weapon changed. We actually have a healing action set. It's going to be on equipped healing item changed. Okay, it activates from the creature. The creature has weapon model data. So all the strike surface components have a way to load the model data, and it has a weapon. It has a type. So I imagine this is it's just utility or weapon right now. I'm going to have to send it another type. Call it healing item. Let's go take a look right through this thing and figure out what it's doing. What it's doing for that. Okay, so it activates, gets the model type, handles left and right models being loaded for both hands, and it doesn't look like it's loading anything yet. It just sets the model type. Let's see if it actually does anything with that model type. Doesn't seem to do much with it. It doesn't seem to care. Let's see. Alright, if model type of the loaded weapon only cares about models of the assigned type. Oh, it's because this thing will call when it's loading the specific name right here. So it's going to send the type that I have assigned, and it's only going to listen for that type in return. So that's good, just so that we know when you get this back and it's loading like a weapon or a utility, it doesn't actually stop the scene loading in case you're loading more than one. Okay, so back to the healing component. We've got this equip, which is equip healing item, and get data for. So this is the healing item. Let's call this item. We'll call it name. And then we've got this get data from name. This does is it loads the class based on the enum that you get. And I don't have any more than one class, so we're gonna go ahead and delete all these guys and just load the data for item name for the bandage. And then it returns healing action set. It returns this guy. So if the name is none, then we have no name is invalid. We'll get that back. We've got the healing item name here, and so the healing item name has to be bandage, and then it will create the class. Probably should move all of this into the game data loader static class, because that's where I end up holding a lot of info about my about things that'll eventually move into a more robust system where it's not just reading from C#. And I prefer to keep things all in one place if I can. Now we do expect a null event right here where it says if the data is null, because we do expect this thing to be null at some point. Unlike other items, we don't, you actually can't have a null in any other stuff. Like you can't have no weapon in your hand without it not handling the data very well. I mean, eventually we're gonna have to move to something like that. And this is specifically for something like this, because once you use the healing kit, it's going to be gone until you pick up another one. I'll be right back, 1 sec. Okay, so make sure this handles null well. Okay, so we're gonna assign the attacks, and that is right here. And so this is where we start reading the data we have, and we assign the data to each one of these actions. And what these actions will do is, since it's got a skill action, it will actually figure out which skill action to use when the input is pressed and signed through here. Because at the end of the day, it reads this data and then it just kind of stops caring about it. Okay, and this is getting into actually where it runs into the skill component, where it starts evaluating the actions. And what this does is it's actually listing the input events, and it's trying to find the best strike that goes for the button and input cue that you've sent. So let's take a look. Toggle off. So if the input cue doesn't have any information in it, it will turn the input pressed off. So I'm going to go ahead and just grab these guys because and change their input types. I think I added these things to the wheel. Nope. So I need to add these to the input types. We actually don't have inputs for this. Yep, we need to add new input types. Let's see, attack, healing, or call. I still think we need, like, not just heal heal one, or heal self, heal others. It's just a really weird thing. So I'm gonna take this and call it heal item 1, heal item 2. So we'll have okay, and released. And we actually have to add them to my input mapping eventually too, because I don't think they actually exist on the input mapping. So here's my input manager. We've got ways that it's tracking inputs to make it more generic for when you've got joystick versus keyboard and mouse. Let me go through here, and we basically track each of these buttons if they've been up or down, and then it does some input checking down here, making sure you're not on a focused widget, because you don't want the input to be read through if you're focusing on some menu, and then it does an update action button. So, and it reads whether the input was up or down earlier. It actually sets them here because I think I had something to always close it when a new menu opens, so it always sets them as false. Yep, and then it reads them here. Okay, so we need to make more of these. And this has to be this way. There's really no way to go about that without. Let's call it healing 1. Okay, we've got them here. Probably should have done most of this off stream because it's a lot of copy paste. But I do plan on getting into the refactoring stuff off stream, because that's gonna be really complex. I think more trial and error in some areas too. Okay, so we've got tracking these healing 1 and healing 2. And then we'll update the button itself. Input action. Heal self and heal others. I think I'm going to change this. Others, we'll call this healing 2. And this determines whether you've just released the button. And I know Godot has some ways that it handles its input system as opposed to just running it on process. Like it has, I use some of those in my input mapping or my remapping section, but I don't know, I just tend to trust this a little more if I do it manually. Okay, so we've got face buttons here. Okay, we've got input mapping here. Healing 1, healing 2. And this determines our total input. Oh, come on. This needs to be pressed. See that I've got a lot of information on these enums for inputs and skill reading. I was looking into see if I can get rid of some of them, but it's going to be a little bit of work to refactor all my skills for the AI. Okay, so we've now got these two things being read. Let me just double check to see if there's nothing else. Joysticks, face buttons, okay. Okay, looks like it's reading all that stuff. I'll need to go ahead and add the input mapping here. Okay, we've got, let's create a new set of input maps. And I want to move them to left bumper and left trigger. We'll call it healing 1. And I forget if left bumper is L1 or L2, but that's fine. We'll just make another one called healing 2. Okay, let's just double check to see if this thing will immediately work with these inputs. We can actually, well, oh no, I have a billion errors because I've set up this component here. Okay, so we're gonna need to read for just these kind of these kind of inputs. So we actually don't care about anything else but these input types, which is held, pressed, held, released. Any other stuff we don't care about. This is actually figuring out which one to run. So why is it actually? It's making the input pressed false for each of these guys, even if the input could be true. I have to revisit how I did that. And healing. Self. Let me rename this one 2. Healing 1. I'm not even sure this is relevant anymore, but we'll find out. I'm going to have to dig into, I'll put that on my list too. Maybe this is something that can be refactored without really losing anything. Okay, now the next one is the actual getting the correct attack, which is definitely what I want to do. I want to clear everything in there and replace it with mine. So in here, I can return this guy. Attack for that. And then it reads that data. It shouldn't care if it's dashing or not. All right, and so it's handling the strike being used, which is all it does is call the base, which is exactly what I want because that handles all the weapons right now. Is valid strike type. So this is when the client, when a client gets a version of a strike that comes in from the server, it will actually determine if the person that is using the strike actually has the correct item out for it. And if they don't, it errors out and ignores it. Because we want to ignore strikes that are invalid as silently as possible. And eventually we might do something like actually let me just grab this stuff. We might just do something like swap to the weapon and then perform the strike. But then they get into some weird area where the weapon that you swap to is late and the person has actually really swapped to a different weapon, or on the server the person actually is dead, so you can't really call that. But yeah, right now when it gets an invalid strike, when it gets a strike, it checks for if it is the correct one for that item type. Okay, so that is the healing component. Let's get back to the skill component. We added it here. We got a getter, which is probably, we just make a getter for it. I'm sure I use it somewhere. Let me go figure out where we use it on the weapon. We get it in the skeleton, and on the vigils component, and in the projectile. That must be for attaching the node. Get node by attachment. Interesting, it's going through here. Oh, the node by attachment's in here. Although, this isn't required anymore, like it doesn't need to get the specific weapon component. Where do I get dash? Don't use that one. And the skeleton gets the dash component. Or gets the utility. What does it do with it? Oh, it checks for utility changed. Which makes sense because... Let's see, what does it do with that? What does it do with the unequipped utility changed? Okay, so... Oh, so what this does is when a new utility is equipped, it will assign the animations. That's what it's doing. And we will do the same thing for our healing component. Let me rename this one and call it healing item component. All right, now that we have it, we need to, here's some rep bars, which tells me what one you have equipped. These get sent from the owning client to others, or most of the time. Actually, no, for monsters it always sends it the one way. Equipped healing item rep bar. We'll make a new one. We'll call this one equipped healing item. And then we've got a name here. It's not going to be utility, it's going to be a healing item. This guy's. And that way, this thing will replicate, it will get the property changed, and then when a property has changed, it will equip it on the remote clients. I'm pretty sure I bind to these things, or bind to this guy. Yep. Let's see, on property change. So I'm binding to these guys, and then when it finishes changing, it runs this on rep. We'll call this one healing item, and we've got replicated property. We don't really expect to have any more than a handful of these healing items, so a bite will be fine for the name. And we'll call this one equipped healing item. And I'm going to go to the definition this one got over here. So yeah, it's got these action sets, which is exactly what, just going to copy the same block here. Now when it comes down from the server like this, it always has just 2 object returns. And we need to actually go through and make them into the correct enum. The new property will always be non-null because it will never update from the old property value to a null. But we will need to do some error handling for that later, because I do expect it to either begin with a none, which will be valid for this, or potentially a null, which will default this to a none, or the default enum. Okay, so what this does when it updates, it clears the strike for the specific source, and this one's going to be a healing item source. Rename. And that's what those big lists of skills were showing, as it runs through all of them and clears the strikes so that it doesn't have those as valid anymore. And then healing item component will equip it. Equip. Equip healing item. And we got the name. And like you saw earlier, this healing item name enum will convert into the class, and the class will load the model and attach it to the skeleton. And get healing action set data. So if it goes through here, it equips it, and then the data is null. It's not going to like it very much, so we'll probably need to do some error handling there. But if it's not null, it'll find all the strikes for this particular source, and it will add them to my list of valid ones. Because when the skill component's what's being is what listens for the strikes that come in from the server, and it needs to validate them against the weapons that are currently equipped. Because then you get into weird situations where the guy has the wrong weapon equipped, which is giving him the wrong animation set to play, and then all sorts of weird stuff will happen with projectiles. So all this stuff really needs to line up. It looks like there's another event that I set up for the utility that it looks like I didn't set up for healing items. And it's probably best this all stays in the same skill component, because it is one of the few components that are easily accessible off of the base character class, base creature class. So yeah, it looks like pass handled to, this is what's handled in the UI. We've got, yeah, I think I actually just had that a second ago, open, skill slot widget. And if you take a look at the skill slot widget, it listens for this specific event. It goes, all right, I've got to track creature, find its equipped weapon, find its equipped utility. And I'm going to go ahead and just add the next one in here. We'll call it healing item. And then it runs it to make sure that when you load, you don't necessarily need to get the event. Always checks. And we've got unequipped utility right here. You know, it's weird. This oh, these are all broken, and that's the only reason that it's giving me the different icon resource locations is because they're all split for some reason. That's fine. I mean, I'll probably end up going in and redoing them. Oh, did my video thing disappear on here? Let's see. Yeah. I guess that camera shut down for most of the night. Okay. Yeah, this could be easily. So look, I've got resources for the weapon, the dash, and utility. I'll just make another one for healing items. I mean, I really should just make something a more generic. It's because each of these categories is split for a good reason. Is it a good reason? I'm not even sure if it's a good reason anymore. Well, the reason they're split is because I expect to have, you know, probably 20 or so of each of these elements. Healing items probably a lot less. I probably imagine that with healing items they're going to be somewhere in like the, you know, 6 to 8 category. There's probably going to be very many variations of those things. They're going to be obviously strength intensities of these things, but a med kit is mostly just a med kit at the end of the day. But there's probably some room there for some crazier stuff, so we'll keep it split. Okay, it'll load, return the string that we need, and all right. So now it'll send correctly to the UI, and I think we've got these things already tagged over here. That's a utility. That's utility. We want to change this to healing. Alright, well we have still a million bugs before we get anywhere close. Okay, I need to open up the skill component again. Down here. What's this error? Equipped healing item. On equipped. Oh. Okay. And that's my new healing item name down here. Okay, now, with all of that done, let's see where we're having errors. I'm sure something was missed. Okay, and then once this guy gets built, we need to go first make sure our input mapping is correct and make sure we're getting the correct prints for the input. Actually, it's probably in the skill component as well. Let's take a look. Okay, so we set up the skills, and this is where it activates a creature and gives them the skills and items that they're currently equipped. And this is what, when a creature first spawns, it will come in with certain things already pre-sent to the client, so it doesn't have to roll the character in when it first activates. Okay, and so where it's going to activate from is actually on the creature itself. And I'll define it real quick just by trying to build. On the hero itself. So here we go. It reads the data that it got sent. And instead of reading the data, I'm just going to go ahead and give it the correct name and give it the bandage. We'll see if we get it on the UI. Air it out. Okay, let's see what it did. On-rep healing item. Okay. So the healing component was not initialized. So it tried to rep this thing without the component existing. That's probably because I didn't set it up on his activation. Okay, activate. Set up skills, that's where I want to be. Wait, it's oh, it's not even, here it is. Okay, and now the container's there. I'm gonna go ahead and okay, that just turns it on. Let's go see where it errors out now. Okay, changes the property. Wait, it's a little further up. Yeah, let's change the property. So, where's the property being set? Right here. So, the rep var either doesn't exist. Looks like it is. It's replicating the on heal. Activate the component. It goes through and sends it, and then it goes, okay, unactivated. Oh, you know why? I bet I've defined the list of properties in here, but in my hero activation, I don't think I actually add it to the rep var list. So where is my activated properties? Here. Right here. Okay, that way the thing will replicate and activate. I don't think that's the actual problem, though. I think the problem is somewhere else. So the healing component exists, it defines this guy, it has the property changing, binds the property changing, activates it here. There's a null. So it's not been, it looks like, yeah, it's not been defined, because where is this defined? Because those rep vars are defined here, but it's not setting a default value to them, which is fine, and it should be. I'll just do this real quick because we want to be able to delete these things when okay, so don't care about that. Don't care about that. So this is where all the on-reps come. Let's see if that variable change fixed. I don't think that will, because the rep var list is not, doesn't care about that. It only cares about it for sending out data. Activate the components. Goes through here, activates this guy. This is being set to a non-null variable. Got a type of byte, and then it errors out here. Equipped healing item rep var. So what property am I trying to set it to? Because it's not a null property. I'll just run it in the Visual Studio. Get a little more debug info. Okay, got a call stack that's a little better now. So this thing is null. Equipped healing item is null, which it shouldn't be. Here's my skill component. The properties are here. Oh, I'm dumb. I just need to change the name. Okay, a little further. Okay, we've got a bandage actor. So we got into the part where we're loading it. Oh, and it's got... I didn't make a... didn't make skills for these other things, so I'm going to just return there and not worry about loading all that information. All I care about is loading the icon onto the UI right now. Nope. $43. Oh, because M attack doesn't exist, but why is it even going here? M attack is not a thing. This should be heal self. We'll just call it heal 1. Heal 1. Comment all this junk out. Just make sure one of these skills works first. Okay, let's try it again. Okay, look at that. Finally unloaded on the UI. We have an equipped skill here. Now, if I press the button to activate it, it will fail because it has an input and the skill component. It doesn't know what to do with the strike input. Yeah, it doesn't know what to do with that guy, so it will figure. We're definitely going to be figured out in a little bit here. Okay. Let's see. You know what? The next part I should do is actually get this guy into the action mapping section, so that we can remap these buttons if we need to. Because I bet. Let me just go back to my old mapping system and see if I can get this thing off of the. I want to map it to the one I was playing with earlier, which is... I don't want to use left bumper for interact. I want to use X for interact. I want attack to be on bumper and special to be on trigger. And then epic to be on Y. So that I can get these off of those buttons. And go back. Go into here. Interact on X. That stays the same. And then I'll try to activate the helium, which is going to break it. Okay. Well, that's a start, I think. I will cut the stream off now, and we will come back next week, and I'll hopefully have all this stuff set up and maybe refactor some of those skill inputs. Okay, as always, if anybody has any questions or has any comments, just let me know, and I'll be sure to get back to you. Have a good one.